What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, Nintendo released their translated Q&A that they had with investors, and they were pretty much pressed over the big elephant in the room, which is the Switch 2 and its rising price tag, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Capcom, who released their own financial report that pretty much says the quiet part loud. And then we also did have PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium revealed, with one game in particular causing all kinds of theories to go crazy online for a certain PlayStation 5 edition. But we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, working to keep you up to date on all of the gaming news. And if you want to make sure you get a reminder whenever the video goes live, you can hit the little bell icon down below next to that subscribe button. And we're going to start today with an explosive story coming out of Japan, specifically for Nintendo, and we can see. Now, this is over on ktv.jp. It's a news outlet there. They say a 27-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of sending a document threatening to bomb Nintendo. According to police, the unemployed man, a 27-year-old, they just had to put that in there, huh? Anyways, suspected of sending an envelope containing a document with messages such as, "We will bomb you, and this plan cannot be stopped." Although they did just tell Nintendo about the plan. But anyway, after all this went down, police searched the surrounding area, but found no suspicious objects. The man has admitted to the charges, and police are investigating his motives. Should probably start on the Twitter X account and go from there. We've seen the Nintendo conversations that happen online, but yeah, not a great idea to threaten to bomb Nintendo, especially when go through the trouble of postmarking the message and sending it. I mean, sure, to me, that means that they at least meant business somewhat, so you definitely want to check around to make sure they didn't actually follow through with that. But to me, it just seems like a crazy person who decided to threaten Nintendo, which, not a great idea, as we've seen with their track record. Also, with Steam controllers starting to arrive for customers, there are some pretty cool things that are being found, and certainly some surprises, which includes an Easter egg if you decide to drop the controller from a certain height. And this was discovered over on Reddit, where the person says if you drop the controller while in Steam Big Picture mode, so they say put it on throw it on a pillow or a bed or something, it will occasionally scream with the haptic motor. So in terms of the haptics, you can actually generate sound with them because it's vibrations, and it's something we noticed with the Switch 1 when you go from one person to the other for Mario Party. That little chime was actually the motors, the vibrations making that noise. But here it's a pretty cool thing to see, and it's just, I don't know, it's a fun touch that sometimes these companies do, and Valve in particular, just having a good time as a private company with some of their new hardware. So now I will say, after seeing this kind of an Easter egg, I'm kind of curious if there's anything like this in the Steam machine. Not that I'm going to throw the Steam machine down like a flight of stairs, but I mean, somebody has to for science. Oh, and we did get an update on the Zelda movie that's happening next year, and we can see, now this is from, well, this is Miyamoto, so it's from Miyamoto, apparently, saying, "I would like to let you know that the worldwide theatrical release date for the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda has been moved up to April 30th from May 7th. So I believe it was originally delayed from March to May, and now it's being pushed forward about a week into April. Say the team is working hard to deliver the film to everyone as soon as possible. There's less than a year to go until release, so thank you for waiting." I'm not really sure what the point is of pushing it up a week, unless maybe they're trying to, I don't know, set it up better for a certain time slot or avoid, I don't know, movies coming out. Who knows? But either way, a week earlier. And to me, the biggest thing now is waiting to see that first trailer, because as Miyamoto says, we are less than a year away from it releasing to theaters. So you do feel like you'll see that trailer before the end of this year, but even so, maybe in the next couple of months, and that'll be interesting. Will Link talk? How will everything look? There's a lot of questions, even the direction of the movie, but at least now we know we'll be seeing it a week earlier than expected. Technically, though, later as well, since there was originally a delay. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their Q&A with investors. Now, they will have a Q&A, and then you'll see people there who are there at least taking notes or transcribing things, put just initial thoughts and some Q&A that they're able to keep up with online. Then Nintendo will follow up with an official transcription in Japanese. Then they will follow up that with an official English translation of that transcription. And that's where we finally are now. So we can actually go through some of the questions. And I went through sort of paraphrasing some of them because a lot of times the questions will be long and drawn out, and then Nintendo will answer with long and drawn out answers that don't actually answer the question. So I'm going to do my best to go through all the questions that they had there and pick out some of the more relevant parts of the answers. So we'll start at the top here. The first question just asked about their forecast and how they came to that number, that being the 16.5 million Switch 2 systems that they are looking to sell for the next 10 months or so. Of course, that going to the end of March 2027. Question 2, they were asked about the rising costs around tariffs and memory and how Nintendo came to the 100 billion yen figure, which they say we don't really disclose how we did that. So that was the answer. Question 3 asked about the price increase and differences between regions. This is one I did want to go over real quick, where President Furukawa says, regarding Nintendo Switch 2, the basic approach to our dedicated video game platform business remains unchanged. First, expand the hardware installed base, and then drive software sales. If the increase in costs were seen as something temporary that would subside relatively soon, then we could have pursued other options, such as working to improve productivity and expand the installed base while maintaining hardware prices. Unfortunately, the recent surge in memory and other component prices and the changes in the marketing environment, including trends in the foreign exchange market and the price of oil, are all factors that we anticipate will continue over the medium to long term. That is very important, by the way, because they are also describing the logistics around getting Switch 2 systems into different regions, but into stores. You think about shipping and how just the price of fuel going up affects shipping prices. That has to be factored in to every Switch 2 system that goes to store shelves. And Nintendo themselves has said the $50 price increase that's happening, say, in the US in September, doesn't actually cover the difference that they are seeing here. Like, it's technically more, but they're also still working out ways, as they mentioned, for productivity and other things in order to cut down on that cost. He goes to say, as a result, we felt that the profitability of our hardware would suffer significantly if we maintained our existing price, potentially impacting our business operations over this time frame. For the sustained growth of our dedicated video game platform business, it is important to maintain a healthy earning structure for our overall business. For this reason, we made the difficult decision to reflect a portion of our costs, again, a portion of our costs, in the selling price. I want to specifically hone in on that part, a portion, because it does kind of allude to the idea that there could be another price increase down the road if these current circumstances continue. And according to Nintendo, throughout this Q&A, seems like they kind of think it could end up being multiple years of prices, say, around RAM, continuing to escalate, or even just the logistics side of getting Switch 2 systems around with the prices of oil and exchange rates. That could be something to also monitor. So while we're talking about a $50 price increase, it's very possible throughout this generation, we do the thing we've seen with the PS5 and the Xbox Series, the Switch 2 incrementally gets more expensive as we go along, and that is very problematic for a company like Nintendo, who is looking to build back up to a 100 million plus install size, since the Switch 1, as we're seeing now, more than 155 million units out there. Question 4 asked about the price increase in relation to the rise in cost of living and what impact that'll have on sales momentum, with Furukawa responding saying, the most important thing in our dedicated video game platform business is to offer engaging fun that is worth more than the price. Going forward, Nintendo and other software publishers plan to release a variety of titles, and we aim to expand the installed base by conveying that these titles offer new experiences unique to Nintendo Switch 2. While uncertainties remain regarding future trends in component prices, we recognize that they could have an impact not only this year, but next year as well. Again, very important to note that this is not something that is just going to be standing still in time. It is something that will be evolving. It's going to be very fluid as we go along. And I do think Nintendo does want to get a cheaper system out there in some way, but by next year, we'll say they have to go up in price again to $550. A $400 Switch 2 Lite all of a sudden looks cheap. And that's kind of sad, but that's also kind of the market environment that we're in right now, not just with Nintendo, but it seems like with everyone. Whether it's PC parts with motherboards or RAM or GPUs or the PlayStation or Xbox, it's even that little Next system that beat out Microsoft the past holiday quarter at one point, that also went up in price. It's just kind of the world we're in right now, and it's quite unfortunate. Let's see, question 6 asked about the Pokemon 30th anniversary and other initiatives Nintendo could do to really just take advantage of sales aligning with it. Question 7 asked about software development noticing that dev time's taking longer. We already talked about that question. It was quite interesting to see what they had to say there for 4K development taking longer, but also Nintendo saying, yeah, there's still some unannounced stuff coming up. Don't worry. Again, I think we'll get into June. General Direct will happen, and they'll work to set up the back end of this year and maybe even into 2027. Question 8 asked why it seems Mario Kart World sales have slowed down since the hardware bundle concluded. Ooh, that is kind of rough because, yeah, Mario Kart World isn't exactly selling like crazy necessarily. It's not really, so once you removed it from the bundle, that was the obvious thing to buy, $500 Switch 2, and it comes with Mario Kart World, which makes it $50 then, yeah, I'm going to buy that rather than buy the $80 Mario Kart World separately or down the road. So it was selling very, very well there because of that fact, essentially selling at, yes, $50. Now, Furukawa says, while I refrain from talking about the state of sales for individual titles, Mario Kart World is an important title that we would like to continue selling throughout the life cycle of Switch 2. Going forward, we will continue to convey its appeal to consumers to expand its popularity as an evergreen title. I think we're going to have that same situation which with the Switch 1, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the Black Friday Cyber Monday game. It was always bundled, and every year it's like, I already know what Nintendo's doing. There will be a Switch 1 of some kind, whether it's the regular one or the OLED or something, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will just be bundled in. That's something I would assume will happen with Mario Kart World. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if this ends up being like the bundled game outright, where we have that pick your own bundle that's happening over the summer. Mario Kart World is in there. The holidays, Mario Kart World. Maybe one Easter, they're like, you know what, Easter bundle, Mario Kart World is in there. I think the $80 price tag, yes, does hurt it, and I wonder if Nintendo somewhat regrets not just making it $70, because while it's a difference of $10, the optics itself, just basically being like the one real $80 game that's just out there, isn't great. And it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna help things if Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out and it's $70. So maybe even Nintendo's like, kind of hopes some other games show up and they're $80 and work to make Mario Kart World look like it fits in a bit more within the industry. But those are the questions Nintendo was asked here, 8 different ones, with a lot of them, yes, focusing in on, surprise, surprise, the Switch 2 and its pricing structure right now within the market, specifically for Nintendo, where they do have the most expensive system they've ever tried to sell, and now it's just getting more expensive as we go along. Next up, let's talk about Capcom and their fiscal year report that they published. It looks like they're doing very, very well, which I mean is good news for fans of all their different IPs, because it does look like they are putting the money back in and trying to build up some of those smaller IPs that aren't Resident Evil or Monster Hunter. But like, we can take a look at some of the pages here, starting with this one, where they do mention that, yes, Onimusha Way of the Sword still set to be released in 2026. And we've talked about how Capcom is having an incredible run right now. Yeah, it looks like it's just going to continue with Oni. I think Onimusha is going to do very, very well. But again, consider the fact that they have released things like Resident Evil, Pragmata, Monster Hunter Stories 3. It's just Capcom's rolling right now. I think they will have something there with Onimusha as well. Okay, moving up here, we have, this is page 23. They do show their split, by the way, for console and PC. Console, 645 million. PC, 935 million. So yeah, PC kind of overtaking console there, but they both pale in comparison to mobile. Almost 3 billion users there on mobile for Capcom. Like twice as much as consoles and PC combined. So I do like the transparency here from Capcom, because this does kind of show why we've seen so many companies really, really try to get into mobile. It's a massive, massive space. It's just kind of difficult to monetize when there's that much stuff happening in that space. Okay, moving up here, this is slide 32. They do show off several IPs. They say nurturing brands to be the next engine of growth, and they have several here. Mega Man, Again, we talked about Onimusha, but there's Dead Rising, Dragon's Dogma, Okami, Devil May Cry. I'm surprised Pragmata's not here, but I guess that's already been mentioned earlier on in their slide deck. Mega Man being a big one, very, very happy to see that. Also pretty happy to see Devil May Cry because we had those rumors going around about Devil May Cry 6. So I'd like to see maybe that get revealed. I would expect it to come out this year. Wouldn't surprise me though, maybe they have Devil May Cry ready to go for 2027. Right next to Mega Man, of course. That'll be a big one as well. Very, very excited for Mega Man to come out. But then we get to page 34, and this was the big talk, of course, because they just flat out show that, yes, they are using generative AI, saying AI utilized to improve development efficiency and productivity, a tool to streamline routine tasks, freeing up time for creative work. So they are breaking the news to people. Hey, we're going to be using generative AI, but they're doing it in a way of, we're going to be using generative AI, but it's going to make our creatives more creative. I mean, they have a nice little line graph here to show the increased efficiencies, right? So there you go. You can have new projects, time invested in true value creation. And look, I mean, I'll tell you now, the investors want to hear, if it's a publicly traded company, that these companies are using generative AI to increase productivity. That's it. They want to know, okay, this company is on the cutting edge and they are using these kinds of advantages that have been provided to them to make more stuff. Or for Capcom, apparently being more creative, making more projects. And that is I feel like that's what people are hoping it stays as. And to Capcom's credit, they have been staffing up. They showed that off as well. It's like almost twice as many people as years ago that they employ. So they're going in the direction of, we're employing people and we're also implementing generative AI. It just becomes a concern when it's like, we're laying off a bunch of people and we're using generative AI. Then people start to put two and two together and go, no, you're replacing with generative AI. So at least here for Capcom right now, they say they're using it so they can make games faster and in turn, hopefully produce better games. But we'll see with that. For now though, Capcom's firing on all cylinders. We've seen it with the game releases. We're seeing it here with the books and the numbers. So I think full speed ahead here to Onimusha, which I think will be another good release for them later this year. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers. These will be live May 19th, and we can see this is over on PlayStation Blog. We're going to start with Star Wars Outlaws, and then we have Red Dead Redemption 2. We'll come back to that in a moment here. Bramble, the Mountain King, the Thaumaturge, okay, it's on the PS5. Flintlock, the Siege of Dawn. Broken Sword, Shadows of the Templar, Enotria, the Last Song, Standard Edition, and then PlayStation Plus Premium is Time Crisis on the PS5 and the PS4. They even say that there's original console exclusive special stages and an all new gyro aiming, which there kind of would have to be since I assume. So back in the day, you had things you'd put around your TV. And I remember getting that, I think that was on the PS3. You'd put it like on top of your TV and it would sort of track where you had the little gun con pointed. I guess here they'll just be using the gyro that's already built into the DualSense or the DualShock 4. So there you go. I mean, that'd be kind of cool just to see. I'm curious about like the trophy list and stuff for that too. You can't really beat Time Crisis though if you have the gun con. Like that's kind of what you need, but I guess this is the next best thing that's available. So obviously a theory is going on right now, Red Dead Redemption 2 being added into PlayStation Plus. They're wondering, does this mean that some sort of PS5 edition for Red Dead Redemption 2 is on the way? And it's possible because I will admit, it's been rumored for quite some time. I don't know if I would look at this and immediately go, yeah, obviously, but it's kind of like one of the headliners. It's right next to Star Wars Outlaws as like in the big picture for the graphic they put out there. And the thing is, Rockstar and Take-Two, they can just announce it whenever. I don't even think it would conflict really with GTA 6, especially if it's something that they announce maybe in June, we'll say. Or I guess technically they'd want to announce it here this month in May. They can just show up, even in a state of play, I guess, and there's one rumored for later on this month in a few weeks here. Maybe it shows up and it's like, hey, it's available on PlayStation Plus, and there's a free upgrade to a PS5 edition that unlocks the frame rate and the visuals and resolution are higher and look better. and there's PS5 Pro support, that'd be pretty awesome. And I'd actually go back through the game again to see it there on the PS5 Pro. But okay, I feel like for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, nothing crazy, but I am at least curious to check out Time Crisis with the gyro and what the trophies look like there. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, do you have a disc drive, so a CD, a DVD, a Blu-ray drive in your main PC? 76% say no, 24% say yes. So if you're using an older laptop, you probably have at least a DVD drive. I have a few laptops now that even have like full Blu-ray drives in there. And I actually have a desktop that has a Blu-ray drive because it's the kind that can just rip PS3 games. That's one of the reasons I actually got it, so I can back up a lot of my PS3 games, and I'll be able to play them fine through an emulator, RPCS3, and for the most part, that's worked out well. But it's very clear that the vast majority of people with gaming PCs do not have a disc drive because most of the cool-looking cases don't even take into account for that. So that's just kind of where we are, again, moving into the digital era, with Capcom even reporting that 93% of their sales are digital. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you see the rise in the PC audience for Capcom. Sony saying 85% digital. Nintendo, with the pricing scheme, clearly is going to be attracting more of a digital audience there. Microsoft's probably almost 100% digital on Xbox. It just really goes to show you kind of the direction, and one of the reasons I'm thinking about how next generation is going to pan out for PlayStation 6 and Project Helix when they make the big reveal and people go, where's the disc drive? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Azrith, who says, it's crazy to me how these studios can't figure out what people want to buy when we are literally yelling at them online. My immediate reaction when Suicide Squad was announced was to say out loud to myself, they should have done Batman Beyond. Here's the other thing though, when it comes to game development, it takes so long to turn the ship. I mean, we're talking 5, 6, maybe 8-year development cycles. If they get an idea now, you'll see it in 2030, 2031. If it's a lot, that's one of the big criticisms around live service games. You may spot a trend now, but it might not be trendy in 5, 6 years for how long development takes. So that's the other thing, is like, yes, you can tell them all day long. They may have even taken the feedback, but you won't know they took the feedback for a while. And that is a frustrating thing to deal with because of the secrecy even when it comes to the video game industry, because half the time these games like never see the light of day. They get canceled internally, and then we hear about them much later on in some kind of report. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you want to hear about how physical games are going to become a problem as we go into the next generation, specifically for platform holders, but kind of for consumers who'd like to bring them over to, say, the PS6 or the Project Helix. I did a video all about that as well, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.